Well, it was nearly 3 years ago. This fireball walked up to me in Las Vegas and looked right at me and said, "Who are you? How come we don't know each other?" And that was my first meeting with Veronica Figueroa. We were both speaking at an event and had never met. And here we are, fast forward, and there are no accidents, as cliche as it can seem. Veronica just announcing here, it's New Year's Eve day 2021. And Veronica just shared with me this morning, sold over 2,000 homes. We know she's number one in the world EXP. And it's my privilege to get with Veronica today from a space of contribution. It's why I think we've built a friendship that goes beyond business, is because we really believe in it. But I think the other thing that I want everyone to hear as we spend some time together, that's been a huge part of why she hits those big numbers. There's a couple things you're going to hear, I know, because I'm going to let Veronica just free flow through it. But I think there's two big things that I want to start with, and then you can look at it. You're here probably for a magic pill, whether you're listening on a podcast or watching this. And listen, there's plenty of magic pills and strategies and tactics, and Veronica's invested in a great coach in our operations space. I always want to give attribution, as you did, to Mike Gerbic, who's been a great coach for you. I want you to pay attention to that. I get the privilege of coaching Veronica, and I want you to get to the understanding of abundance too. Okay. And knowing there's a couple things. There's abundance, there's contribution, there is constantly investing in yourself, even more so. But I think the big thing is the personal development. Veronica, welcome. It is so awesome to have you here.
Oh my gosh, Chep, I'm so honored to be here, and obviously to just hear you tell that story of how we met, and just seeing how much has happened in the last three and a half years, almost 4 years actually. I get a little emotional just thinking about the journey. And so now even just hear you say things like, like we have become friends, right? You become like family to me. And to finish the year out with those numbers that you just said, the numbers really don't mean anything, right? It's really who we become along the way, and who and how we have just grown as people, as leaders, and just thinking of who I was 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago when I first met you, to who I am today is kind of like, man, thanks, Chep, for hanging in there with me. The good, the bad, the ugly, you were there for me every step of the way. And a lot has happened in those 3.5 years. So I'm just honored to be here. And, like you said, there is no magic pill, right? You've taught me that. I've had to learn that throughout the process. And someone like me, I was like, hey, give me the formula. Like, you're like, and you chuckle and laugh like, oh, this is going to be fun. But it's been a ride. And I would say this, I wouldn't have been able to do it without you and the community that you've built, the abundance that you've instilled in all of us, as we all learn from each other in the Cheplak Live community. And just, it's been a beautiful thing. I'm just honored to know that as the result has been amazing businesses. We've all
right. It's crazy.
Right?
Well, let's jump into that, because I think there's a part of it that will come out as you share. And I want to, as I hope in any interview I do, is facilitate and stay out of the way. But the one thing I want to point out is, and a lot of people I chat with, and Veronica too, I'm an example of it. I shouldn't be sitting here if you look at what society would say. Veronica shouldn't be sitting here if you look at what society would say and what we've gone through. And one thing I want to point out to everyone, stop looking for and asking people how they did it. Ask them what they've overcome. Ask them what they had to overcome, what they had to work on. And so we can go way, way back, but here's what I want to do, because Veronica and I could sit here for hours because we enjoy each other's company. We love to contribute. But in the time that we have, Veronica, let's break it down. And I'm going to leave it to you. Maybe it's 4 years, you decide. But my snapshot might be not from my perspective, but from you. If it's the last 3 years, 4 years, take us on a 3 to 4 year journey. Sure, there's things that you did before real estate. You got into real estate. Here's how you were as an individual agent. We want to touch all people, but I think it's real important for people to see, where were you at 4 years ago? What did it look like? Where were you stuck? Where did you have some movement? And what brought you here? So let her rip.
Absolutely. I would definitely say 4 years ago, I was in a really dark place. On paper, I looked really good. I think a lot of people could probably relate. It was just a grit, the grind, but there was a lack of clarity. There was a lack of focus. There was a lack of purpose. And for me, I think when I heard you speak the first time, my husband and I, and Tony very well, we don't always agree on everything. But there was one moment, like when we were in that room with you, that it just hit us. And it was like, we need to hire this guy. He's speaking the truth. And the things that you were saying were things that at the time I was living. I was going through, I think, an identity crisis as a leader. I was going through an identity crisis as a human being. I didn't know why I was doing a lot of the things that I was doing. And the rat race was real. I had discovered that I could be a really high functioning real estate overachiever, but I didn't know why I was doing it. And I was, just miserable. And I don't want to say that real estate makes you miserable. I personally had to deal with some things that I hadn't dealt with in order to take me to the next level. So I had reached a level of success on paper, 100 million, 200 million, like we were doing that, that actually we had never really kind of broken the lid over 100 million, to be honest with you, Chap. We were hovering around $80 million. We had, a good production team. I was the broker. I was the team leader. I was wearing all these different hats. I was the counselor. I was everything. But I realized I wasn't a good operator at the time. I had gotten really stuck. I was just, trying to chase the business, what people were, had kind of hardwired me to believe. This is what you do. You go from top agent to team leader to broker owner to all these things. And you're looking at what your competition is doing and you're chasing the next, the next goal because you got to get there before they get there. And I was just exhausted. I had just reached a level that I was like, I'm burnt out. I'm not happy. I don't know why I'm doing this. I have no core values. I have no principles. I have no purpose. And you had said so much in that one, presentation where Kevin and Fred had invited me to be a speaker, thanks to Via Williams, who said, she threw my name in the hat as being a female that, supposedly would bring value to that group. But man, I felt like a fraud at the time because I just really wasn't complete within. And, when you talked about, and the reason I'm going back to this is because that's where it hit me. When you talked about cleaning up your own, laundry, right? Clean up the house first before you could truly lead other people. And, that's what I felt like. I was like, I have all these people relying on me, but I go to bed every night with anxiety because I can't even rely on myself right now. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know where I'm going, what my purpose is going. Yeah, I could sell a lot of homes. I could go into a listing appointment and crush it. I can have a really, really, I would say short-term relationship with buyers and sellers because it's not going to require more than a 90-day relationship because anything beyond 90 days, I might get exposed. So I just started realizing that you were speaking, the truth on, hey, a lot of you guys are going through some stuff that until you face that, you're not going to have a breakthrough. You're not going to be able to take your business to the next level. You're stuck. And you were saying things that to me in that moment, like really struck a chord. And of course, my husband being as close to me as possible, than anyone else, he knows what would keep me up at night. He knows why I would cry myself to sleep, whether it was turnover, recruiting, retention, people leaving you, people, you not being able to trust who you were in business with. But the thing is that you were speaking to me in that moment that it was all a reflection of who I was. It's what I was attracting, right? And I didn't know how to switch it. And when Tony looked at me, he says, we got to hire this guy. I was like, we can't afford this guy. He said, we cannot not afford this guy. We got to figure out how to afford this guy at the time. And I was the broker who I was funding the broker operation through my production. So I was the broker. Yeah, we were selling homes, but the homes we were selling that the team was getting and everybody was winning, I was turning around just to fund the business to keep the lights on. And I said, something's got to change. Something's got to change. And it wasn't the commission structure. It wasn't even the brokerage. It was me. And at that moment, 4 years ago, I set out and I said, okay, I'm going to hire this guy. and hopefully he'll take me on. And you know, you kind of had kind of like a vetting system. There were people who knew me, who believed in me enough, but I didn't believe in myself, and they put a good word in for me. And Anthony Lamacchia, my good friend, he said, you need to hire this guy. I know you enough, Veronica. You've got what it takes. You need to hire this guy. And I looked at your pricing at the time and I was like, I don't know if I can afford this guy, but this is it. I'm going all in. I was never afraid to take risk. And I remember talking to you and I was just venting. And the first 6 months, it was like me just venting. And you're just like, okay, let me know when you're ready to get to work. You know, but I think I needed to lay that foundation so you could really get to know who I was and what I was going through.
Oh, there, let me interrupt you real quick, Veronica, because I want people to hear this, because it goes back to what I started with, and I think people can let go of that and see the numbers and say, well, give me the magic. And you've got the magic of the Erics and everyone around you. But what did you say to me? You said, okay, I'm going to coach with you, but we're not talking real estate for 6 months, maybe. You said 3 months, maybe 6 months. Talk about that. I mean, period.
Yeah, I mean, I needed to get right within, right? And it was like, what are the habits that I have that consistently continue to show up in my business and my personal life? And I was blaming everyone else, Chep. I remember I still have notes, my journal of when I would, you know, coach with you and I would record the conversation, because back then we weren't using Zoom at the time. We were just phone calls and it was like voice recorder and just taking notes. And, you know, a lot of it was focus. What are your habits? What are you attracting? What are you saying to yourself? And then I just started hearing this theme and I was like, well, shit, Veronica, the answer lies within. It's you. You know, you're the one who's blaming everyone. Oh, can you believe these agents didn't do this? Well, what role did you play in that, Veronica? Can you believe that, you know, I have friends that take advantage of me, or that, you know, like, you know, they're not holding their end of the bargain. What was my accountability? Oh shit, I didn't have any. What were the boundaries that I have? Oh, I didn't have any boundaries. What was the core values and the principles? Oh, well, I don't have any as a person. How can I expect other people to have them? So they're just a reflection of me. They're just a reflection of what I'm allowing. But Chap, if I instill some boundaries and some expectations, they'll leave me. Well, they'll leave you anyways, Veronica. So it took a lot of, you know, conversations that you just let me realize it. You were just helping me navigate through it, right? Because I was like everyone else. I'm sure you get a lot of people, the victim, right? I was the victim. Oh my God, Chef, can you believe so-and-so did this to me? Can you believe so-and-so? Can you believe my brokerage is doing this to me? You know, like, then I started saying like, wait, what's the common denominator here, Veronica? It's you. The common denominator here is you. And Chep, what do you know? You're like, oh, what's your role in all of this, Veronica? And I was like, well, I'm paying you to help me, not to tell me that I'm the one who's fucked up. Am I allowed to say that? You know, like, sorry, anybody who knows.
It's okay.
You know,
real. That's who we
are.
are.
I think that was a big thing, is like the first 6 months, I had to realize that the problem lied within me. And of course, you know, now after 4 years, I've made some decisions of my health that it took 3.5 years for me to finally get it, right? But my drinking, we had, Chap, hey, I almost had an agent kill themselves because they were drinking at the happy hour and it was open bar and it was this, you know, what do I do? You know, they're going to sue me. Hey, Cheb, so-and-so is screwing so-and-so, or so-and-so and this is happening here. He's like, yeah, what kind of environment are you enabling? What kind of environment are you creating? And I was like, well, why am I at fault? They're all adults. I realized I was the leader of the community that I was building. And of course, you know, some people obviously make their own personal choices, but I also was facilitating an environment that was encouraging a lot of behaviors that were not healthy behaviors. And we were hard workers, but we were looked at as a joke a lot. And I was tired of that. And then I realized it wasn't anyone else's fault but mine. And then I just started to take action. And I was willing to take the consequences of the actions that the result, right? Of like, we're going to lose some people, but we're going to gain the right people. We're going to lose some people, but we're making a personal choice. Like you teach us choice management to show up like the leaders that we want to be. And once I started doing that, guess what happened? I started attracting the right type of people, the right type of culture, people who respected me, people who believed in my vision, people who were willing to be held accountable. But then the real work started, because then I really had to level up as a leader. it was like, okay, it can't just be on paper. You can't just be talking about this. You got to walk the walk. It took me 6 months to a year. It took you almost firing me. It took me leaving, taking a break and coming back. And you're
Did I know?
like,
I
you're
was
saying,
in, you ready for how this world works? I was in a gym in Boston the night before when you had called in. I picked up the phone to speak for Anthony the next day. Just, I mean, look at how it's all interconnected.
and talk about principles and core values and standards. You taught me. I was like, and I'm a really good connector. I know that, Chep. I'm a really good connector. If
100%.
I believe in something, I connect people, and I'm like, hey, Chep, like, come on, man, I've referred you so many people. Take me back and give me the old price. Don't be like, because you're busy and all that stuff, but like, don't forget, like your girl over here done came through, and you're like, Veronica, I operate in principles. These are my new prices. If you want it, like, and are you going to commit, and are you going to do the work? Because
I remember walking out of the gym. I remember the moment. Yeah.
And I said, Chep, I ain't ever gonna step out of this program. I was like, I was like, shit, this is gonna cost me an extra $100 an hour. I was like, I am committed, and I have not stopped ever since, because I was like, it's not even about the money. It was about principle. And what you taught me in that moment, I was like, I want to operate in principle. I want to operate from a place of abundance and knowing, like, hey man, if you really want this, you got to show me you really want it. And that taught me so much. It was like I got my teeth kicked in, and I needed that. I didn't need a coach who was going to baby me. I needed someone who was going to speak the truth to me. And that's what you did. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna roll up my sleeves. And then there was times where I was like, I don't think he takes me serious. I don't think he sees me. I don't think he sees what I'm capable of. But then I realized, no, you did. You were just helping me walk through that journey. And that's where you're like, I always knew you had it in it. You just had to believe you had it in you. So the last 3 years has been a journey, 3.5 years, 4 years has been a journey of self-discovery, of those aha moments that I'm like, oh, Chep, I get it. That's what you've been telling me the whole time. And for a lot of people who are listening, and they might think like, oh, I've heard Chep say that. I heard him say that before. You know how many times I've heard you say the same thing, and it was a moment that was like, boom, it finally clicked. Right? Everybody's always looking for you talk about it, a new magic pill, a new system where the simple solves the complex. You've always taught us that. And I'm like,
no, Lord Reader grabbed me. It'll be, was it 2 years ago, January, when we were in Nashville for Mastermind, and she shook me in the back of the room. And I don't know whether it was Maria or John Wentworth speaking. I finally heard it. And I go, what? You've been saying that to me for 3 freaking years.
yeah.
And it's just that simplicity. Here's what I want to just chime in here real quickly, because you had been making choices. I observed and watched. I saw you seeking, and I know it so well because it's what I had to do in my personal development, in my series of misadventures in our life, or in my life, right? And I'd seek and seek, and you were always looking for mentors and teachers and applying yourself to it. But my sense was, and correct me if I'm wrong, my sense was it was mid 2020, maybe somewhere in 2020, where you turned a corner. Maybe it was a later part of the year. Come back and let me know when that moment was, or if I'm off, because here's what did happen. You got on stage for the first time at one of my events in January of 2021. And it was a small room because it was the first time. I think there's 60 of us, but Adam Contos is in there. And it was, our crew and people that were zooming in. And that was your moment. I don't know if you know that. Do you remember the feedback that you got from everyone? There were people, inclusive of myself, emotional, and you moved the room because of 2 messages, Veronica. The message, but then the message of the human being that they saw come forward. When, was it mid last year? When did you make you were making decisions, you were doing the little things, but there was a place where a line in the sand was drawn in 2020. Because when you hit that stage in January 28 and 29 in St. Augustine, it was everyone's like, whoa. And here's this woman who's been, I think, an innovator. You've been respected. Everyone in the industry knows you, loves you. There was a moment that a line went in the sand. When was that? Truly.
I think it was a combination of just series of events that had happened. And you helped me walk through 2020 when I had to replace my entire operations team. That was hard. I had to look within and say, you got this, and you believe in what you're building, and you know who you're becoming. You are not the same person you were 2-3 years ago. But if you are going to truly evolve into this, this respected leader, you've got to be honest with yourself, and you got to be honest with people. You got to come from a place of truth, the real truth, Veronica. And you just gotta let it all out. You got to expose yourself. And I had an opportunity to stand in front of a room of 100 plus of the best operators and leaders. And listen, I've always said, like, there's probably nothing I can teach these people. There's nothing I can teach them that they don't already know as far as systems, leads, conversion. But what I can do is be honest with my story and my heart and my journey and what I had to overcome and what I'm struggling with. And, vulnerability became my superpower. It was like, I just need to show up for them, because how many of them are also maybe going through this identity crisis? And I stood there and I remember saying to you, Chep, like, what value can I bring this group? Like, and you're like, just do you, Veronica, share your truth. And I walked them through the pain and the struggles that I went through of having to, dismantle my entire operations team, people that I loved, being able, being honest with myself that it's hard. Leadership is hard. It's not easy. Be careful what you wish for, and that getting your ass kicked in the arena is the true prize here. It's the fact that success is not about, the numbers. It's about who you become along the way. And me having rebuilt my entire operations team while I knew people were waiting and betting on me to fail was the biggest challenge I had to overcome. Telling people the truth that I was trying to restore my marriage, while I was trying to build a team, and while I was trying to overcome addiction that I didn't realize was true addiction, Chep, that I'd call you and I'd be like, Tony and I got into a big blowout. And you're like, yeah, was alcohol involved? Like just things that I was like, Chep, I'm dealing with mental health. Chep, I'm dealing with abuse. I'm dealing with this. I'm dealing with all these things. And, like, he's like, yeah, well, why don't you show up for other leaders and just be honest? And it was just like, oh, wait, like, people want to know that we're human. They want to know that we face struggles. I could do that. I could share with them what I'm going through, because I'm not afraid to tell people, like, this shit's fucking hard. And you know what? Maybe someone looks like me out there. Maybe someone else is going through something, and they need to know that it's going to be okay. And maybe they need to know that when you start operating from a place of truth and letting people know that you're on this journey of growth as well, and that you're going to take personal responsibility, but you're committed to working through this, and other people are inspired by you, for you showing up, maybe that's what true success is. I don't know. I'm just going to be honest with people, because I'm tired of showing up like a fraud.
Period.
And
could you let's stay right here, because watch this, because here's what started to happen too, because this is where the science and the art come together. The science is you then saying, okay, to grow, I've got to hire more people. That's salaries, that's budgeting, that's projections. The science is, yes, there's art in the relationships, but the science is of it are these people contributing to the mission. Okay, not just profit-based, but the dollars are in that part. Could you have had the confidence? I'll go here. Could you have had the confidence as you were in this personal growth, which we're all on and will be every day? But if you had not taken those personal growth steps, could you have had the confidence to go out and grab an Eric to run your operation, who you knew you would have to be confident, we love him, he's doing great. Would you have had the confidence to go out and do that, and even taken that step, if you had not done the personal development stuff that you have been just ruthlessly obsessed with?
Absolutely not. And to be honest with you, I was scared shitless when I was able to hire him.
And could you watch this, ladies and gentlemen, and could you keep him if you didn't stay on that personal development path?
That's the key. I brought him on, I had a vision, I could sell tickets, right? but could
Yeah,
I,
you can say it.
could I keep them? Could I keep talent like
Yes.
this, right? And I knew at that moment, it was a crossroad that I had to evolve as a leader to help evolve what I was about to build and the leaders that I was going to build. And it wasn't child's game anymore. It was no longer child's play. I had hired a data scientist. I had hired true operators. And I remember Greg Schwartz, who to me to this day is one of my biggest mentors, that I love Greg, you know, former CBO of Zillow. He believed in me. And I'll never forget what he told me. He says, Veronica, you're a great leader. He says, you're an influencer, you're this or that connector. He says, you need a great operator by your side. He was like, and when you can find a great operator together, what you guys can accomplish is going to be mind blowing. And I was like, I thought I had a great operator at the time. I went through 2 or 3 operators before I found the right one, but then I started getting really clear as to what that was. I needed someone that was going to be obsessed with data integrity. I needed someone that was going to be obsessed with the vision, the mission, that didn't have the ego, that was all about discipline, that was relentlessly committed, right? But then I said, well, hold on, am I disciplined? Am I relentlessly committed? Am I a leader I would want to follow? So when Eric came in the picture and the, you know, the Isises and the Jennies that I had to bring together, I said, well, I got to step up for them. I have to do the work. So that's where I made the decisions. And my team has witnessed me go through. It's like you're weaning off of who you used to be, like curled up in a ball, right? Like those bad habits want to come back, those bad habits. And I'm talking about keeping meetings, showing up on time to meetings, doing what you say you're going to do, doing the things that, you know, like Chep, you were like the one instigating a lot of this. You would tell Eric, hey, your job is to put pressure on her. Your job is to keep pressure on her. Don't let her veer off. And for him to know, and I'm going to declare this, it's January, it'll be January 1st, 2022. And my other coach, Mike Gerbic, and you yourself, like, I had a deadline. It's like, Eric will be the CEO of the Figueroa team come January 2022. So I could focus on bigger visions, right? But I knew in order for me to mold him, I had to give him an example of what a good leader is, right? He was already a great operator, disciplined. I had to teach him everything of real estate in a year and a half. But also I had to show him as to what type of leader I expected him and culture to be, but I had to show up. And you would tell him, keep pressure on her, ride her, don't let her veer off. And I could have gotten mad at you and I was like, all right, let's go. I'm up for the challenge. Let's do this. And it's little things, like I just said, starting your meetings on time, showing up, you know, commitment to what you're saying. Another shiny object. No, Veronica, we're not going to implement a new shiny object because we haven't closed the loop on the other 15 things you said we were going to do last quarter or the last year and a half that hasn't been executed. You haven't even started your multi-channel video recruiting campaign. Why are we now going and buying this? And the reason I'm dropping these little things is some of you guys who are listening is like, you're worried about doing the next thing when you haven't finished the first thing you started. And that was one of the things that Eric helped us do, closing the loop on things. And for me, being an extrovert, being a trailblazer, being one of those people, an innovator, like Chep says, that we laugh about that, is like, we're always constantly seeking something else so we don't face the truth that we didn't finish the first shit that we said we were going to start. So he was making me look within and saying, all right, are you truly committed? And if so, let's see how committed you are for your leaders. And then that's where I really start. If not, I would have lost them all 6 months
And
ago.
watch this though too. What I want you to hear, because there's principles underneath this. She's taking you on the journey and the choices she made, but it's always about going layers deeper. And I want to talk to you about the deeper layer. Veronica also had to, you hear these words, empowering, okay? You hear mutual accountability. Prior to, and then what you also hear Veronica talk about, personal responsibility. She had to raise her hand and say, I own every outcome. You heard her say that, okay? Then she moved into, you know, when we build up that personal, our sister, we love, Jenna. It's like what Jenna said yesterday. She's like, Chep, when I took care of me, then the confidence came forward and I could do things. And so she took that step. But here's the other thing that she did, coupled with the personal responsibility, was mutual accountability. And I want you guys to capture that. See, if Veronica, she knew I was saying that, but you know what most leaders would do? you got to allow that operations person hold you accountable. And so that's where you'll hear Veronica talk about it, me talk about it. Emotional maturity. If you look at it right now, it's Veronica's emotional maturity, my emotional maturity that's constantly evolving. That's what got us here. So I want people to hear that, Veronica. It's if you didn't allow him to hold you account, we'd be having a conversation, but we wouldn't have a conversation on the heels of 2,000 sales.
You know, it's funny because Chep, you teach us about real estate is just a vehicle for us, right? It's just but like really getting deep with your people and knowing why you're doing this. When Eric lost his father, when he first, earlier this year, and you would have never known his father was in hospice on his deathbed, and Eric was still there grinding it out, helping. When I saw
I was on a Zoom coaching call with him during it.
When I saw how committed he was to me and to my vision, I knew, I was like, I can't fail this person, right? When I see people sacrifice their family to execute things beautifully for me, I feel like a sense of responsibility to become a better person and better leader. And, like when I talked in St. Augustine and I talked about, we both teared up, this is a guy who beat cancer. He's 30 years old, and he also worked his way up, had dyslexia in school, was told that he would never kind of amount to what he wanted, and he became an engineer, and worked for some of the best companies and trusted to come and work for me because, like I said, I could sell tickets. But I knew like God had given me an opportunity to truly impact people's lives. And I just can't take that for granted. And when the money starts rolling in and the success starts coming in, I've seen far too many times people take advantage of that. And I was one of them. I didn't appreciate it. This time around, I truly had an opportunity to make an impact. And I was committed to these people. And I said, this guy will be one of the best operators in the country. And this was no longer about me being the best. It was like, how do I make them better than I ever was? And it wasn't about real estate. It was about looking back and saying, like, this guy's a great human being. This person's a leader. This person can, impact so many people. His discipline, the things that they do. Then what he started doing, here's what happened. He then committed to building up Chase. Chase is now an amazing, young, dynamic sales leader that wants to become a better leader for other people. Harold elevated as a coach and said, I want more. And it's not another sale. I want to develop. I want to be a better leader. I want to become better as an operator, discipline. Jenny said, I'm going to build. I want to build and be a part of this. So then what I started seeing was a cascade effect of leadership cascading into other leaders. And Chase was so committed. I mean, Eric was so committed to developing these leaders. And then I got to stand in the back of the room and move leaders to the front of the room. And that's where it hit. I was like, that's leadership.
Because what you did is this, you took this one, and you guys need to hear this. Veronica owned, if I want to change my outer world, the people around her, I've got to change my inner world and hold that one. And she's stayed obsessed with it. A couple other things I want to point out to help you guys too, because part of this is some of you may be sitting here, and Veronica coaches for me too. So if you guys are interested in coaching, certainly reach out to Veronica for coaching. Very limited, but there are, I think, maybe some spots there. But here's where you're at. You're either ready to hire an operations manager, you have an operations manager in place or an operations person in place, and it's not working. What I want to do is I want to point out some things. The person didn't come from the real estate business. The person, it's the number one question. And I just found this out, Elon Musk, and you've heard me say this before, I just heard it. Elon Musk asked someone, he wants to know that the drama or the trauma you've gone through in your life. What's the greatest challenge you've overcome?
Yep.
His cancer. Okay. And then what he wants to find out too, and what I always want, I've asked this question for years. It's in my documents, and I'd never really even followed Elon. So I'm not done to say it's me that created it. And were you the one, did someone else overcome it for you, or did you overcome it? The other place that she talked about too, and I'm not saying you need to be an athlete, that person could be a musician. He is an athlete that is committed to his jujitsu. And I want to take you inside the mindset of this gentleman that she's talking about. He's not this operations guy from corporate America for this real estate company grab. She grabbed principals. She hired principals. And so when they were at the EXP conference, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I want you guys to grab this because this is part of her growth. Her personal growth, her professional growth is just constant. That's Veronica. At 6 a.m. during the EXP con, and when people go to Vegas, you know what people do? They go to conferences to party. This guy goes out and competes in a national level jiu-jitsu tournament.
Yeah.
So it's discipline, it's behaviors, it's things like that. Here's ultimately where I just want to make sure everyone hears this. Veronica's work, okay? She got ruthlessly committed to her personal development, her professional development, her principles. Then she was able to attract someone like that. Then Veronica became a vessel instead of it having to be her horsepower. And what she just told you is now Eric is a vessel to extend those principles to these young men who I've spent time with that have just grown tremendously. So, we've never really talked about that. Yeah. We've talked about the principles, but there you go. Look at that.
And it's funny because he didn't win that competition, right? And nope. A lot happened as we were there. And it was my first time ever in Vegas, non-drinking. I'm in bed at a decent time. I'm interviewing Venus Williams. Ironically, I was selected to be the woman that represents, leadership and championship. And I won we had won the night before and I had no idea we were going to win number one. I mean, I never thought that. And, the mindset I had to get in to prepare for that interview was like, listen, I have winged a lot of shit in my life. But that was the one interview I will say I prepared like an athlete and he was preparing like an athlete. And it's funny because I got in a zone and I learned a lot from Venus when we were talking and, how she interviews people. She asks them what their habits are, what their discipline, what their sports is, what their hobbies are. She looks for people that have similar core values. And I was just listening to her. I was like, man, it's the same principle across all boards, right? And then, Eric wasn't there when we got our award because he was so focused on, training for that competition. And I supported that because I know he needed to be in the right mindset. And, he didn't win. And I was there, reminding him, hey, listen, you're a winner in our eyes, the fact that you're constantly disciplined. And about 3 weeks later, he sends me a message like, Vero, I got an opportunity to compete in Masters. I'm going to be in California for a week. I said, go, you need this. You helped us become number one. You did this. You were a part of this. Go out there and finish this. He says, this is my last chance, my last shot for this year. He won it all. He won it all, became number one Masters for North America this year. So not only did we get the number one team at EXP in the world for most units sold, a team that went through a completely different change. And let me just tell you guys, we did this with a completely new roster. I maybe have 4 or 5 agents that have been with me for 3, 4, 5 years plus, right? But the rest are all new agents with a pretty strong operations team. But my point is, we accomplished that, but then to see him go out there and accomplish number one in Masters and how we are, and I summited a mountain, and I lost 80 pounds and I made choices and, some of Harold made choices, Chase made choices, Chase bought a house at 26 years old and like all these things that everybody was just winning in every aspect of their life. It was a reflection of who we are becoming as a community. And he didn't win on that thing, but he didn't give up, right? He got his ass kicked in the arena, but he was willing to go back and learn and get out of his own way and do what he needed to do to win it all the way. And we literally this year, like, have all just entered a winning season because we got right in our mind. We got right in our heart. And let me tell you another area where he really developed. And I'm telling you guys this because I want you to hear the patterns. And then the other leaders also started. He also developed an emotional maturity as well and empathy because you operators, you checklist people, you people who are all KPIs. One thing I had to teach him was like, dude, your job is not just to KPI people to death. And I said this in in St. Augustine, my KPI is keeping people inspired.
That's so good. That's so good.
Right? That's all good, but people are not inspired by your to-do list. And I didn't make that one up. That's Chep. So I was able to remind him, you don't always win just because you got the right technique. You got to put your heart into this. And do you want to develop as a leader that just knows how to check the boxes and do integrations and systems? Or do you want to be the leader that people connect with you as well in your heart and believe in you? And when you can bring those two worlds together, operator and heart, that's when you win. And I believe he won on that mat because he was able to connect the heart to the head to the heart.
100%.
Just like we did when we built out this team.
Yeah.
Like we may get our ass kicked, but we're gonna come back and we're gonna win.
Well, let's talk about ass kicking, right? Because all of our friends have been through this too, and our friends and we've got friends at all levels of production. But I mean, when I reference the rare air folks of y'all, 1,000+ transactions over, we've all gone through these bumpy rides. Talk about well, the first piece I want y'all to know that Veronica moved from, and maybe you're sitting here and it's what she can coach you through. You move from doing transactions. They're no longer the lever. Human beings are the lever because humans do transactions. So I want you to hear everything Veronica's talking about. Veronica knows how to make money. Veronica knows how to convert a lead. Veronica knows how to do, tech stack. Veronica knows, but nothing matters without the people. Talk to me and everyone that's listening and watching, Veronica. What's it like? And listen, we never want to lose people, but what's it like losing people in 2021? And wishing the best, always of anyone, versus when you lost people in 2019. Talk to people about that. What's the difference? How does it feel today versus then?
And we still care about people, right? We love people, but now we have the emotional maturity to wish them the best, to say, hey, I get it. We're moving in a direction and it's not for everybody. But the difference is I'm not hostage to people anymore. I'm not hostage to, oh my God, an agent left. Oh my God, an agent took a lead. Oh my God, this, because, for those of you who think the word recruiting is a bad word, it's actually the lifeline of all of our businesses. We're always recruiting buyers, sellers, vendors, opportunities, agents. And, when I got really clear on the recruiting game and the type of avatar and the type of people I wanted to be in business with, I'm no longer hostage of that. Listen to this, we had 13 people kind of like try to hold us hostage in October after I had, gone through a health scare. We rolled out a new team agreement. I called Chep. I was like, a couple of these folks didn't like it and they tried to enroll the Fuck the Fig Team Club. I was like, but we ain't worried about it because we're going to grow, next quarter by 20 something agents because we know the formula of the type of agent that we want to be in business with. And in 2019, I would have been crippled. I would have been in bed crying, thinking my business was falling apart. Where in 2021, it's like, okay, what we've come to realization is that people go in different directions. Sometimes people just, it's time for them to move on. Change is hard for other people. I don't take it personal. I am constantly on the pursuit of attracting the right people who believe in what we're building. I know I created enough value. I know what we bring to the table. I know how we have a proven, repeatable process to help agents become successful. And I focus on that. And IKFR. We keep recruiting. If you don't know what KFR means, you can insert what the F means. I've said enough about of that word today. KFR, keep recruiting. And you're recruiting people to the vision, to the culture, to the opportunity, to the growth. And I'm no longer hostage. I am always in attraction mode. Why? Because my video game's on point. Why? Because my message is always on point out there, letting people know, hey, we're here to help. And if for some reason someone's season is has ended with us, it's okay. We leave the door open for them. Hey, we wish you the best. As a matter of fact, some of them want to come back because we've created a world where we want to treat people with respect. 2019, it was World War II, if you left me, it was game on, I was off with your head, I was like a Nazi, now it's like, hey, we treat them with grace, we get it, we're not a problem, doors always open. and keep it moving. And I've taught my team and my leaders to understand that, and like, hey, we all own retention, we all own culture, we all own recruiting, and we're all on this journey of understanding and respecting that people, because these are human beings, life happens, and we have to constantly be attracting the right new people into our lives and re-enrolling and re-recruiting the people that we do have, and are we taking care of the ones that we do have? And then if someone does leave, we ask ourselves, well, should they have left? Did we pay attention to them? Did we recognize them? Did we understand what their needs were? Don't be reactive. So my coaches now, you even little simple things, I'll give you a nugget, guys. Chep says this all the time. Your entire leadership team should be checking in on your agents, rotating that every week or every month, and like checking in, like not even about real estate. How are you doing? Right? How are you doing today? If you're not checking in on your people, they should leave you. If you're not aware and understanding what makes them tick, who they are, and what they're, what they do on the weekends with their kids, they should leave you. And that's the difference now, is like, now we're very clear as to who we were in business with, who we want to be in business with, and how to treat them. And we treat them good, they'll stay. And if they leave, we still treat them well. And then we take personal responsibility as to why they left. But we're also not afraid to bring people in. 2019, people would see people coming through the door and they would be intimidated. They'd be like, why are we growing? Why are we growing? Now they expect growth, because they know that, I will tell you, we're not the same team we were in 2019, because we've also elevated the quality of people. Now we have people that say, welcome, we're so excited to learn from you. You are contributing to the collective genius of our group, because you bring your experience and your energy and the value, right? Before, it was a scarcity mindset, like, oh, someone's gonna take my lead. Someone's coming in. I'm not gonna get 50 leads this month. Now I'm only gonna get 43. Now it's different. It's like, welcome to our world that we're so excited to grow together and learn together. So two completely different mindsets, but it started with me. It was a reflection of me. And now, KFR.
Let's put a bow on this thing. And where I want to go to, and we are Veronica's EXP, and we've got friends that we're brand agnostic in our group. And so it'd be easy for people to say, well, you go out and contribute because that's the recruiting model. Listen, that contribution thing was my recruiting model personally, not that I invented it. The smart people that get recruiting, they did that years ago. I'm talking in the olden days, in 1995, because they're simple principles. People don't believe what they're told, they believe what they experience. And so, secondly, I knew Veronica before she was EXP, and met her at a speaking engagement. She's always been a person of contribution. You need to put a bow on this thing, because here's the thing, Veronica, it's too many people, they hear contribution and they think they're that, but then they're attached to what they should get for it, and then they abandon it. I've watched you long before you're even EXP. Contribution, the one principle for sure you always had is contribution, period, with no attachment to the outcome. Zero. Talk to people about the importance of that. And I don't care if you're Coldwell Banker, Keller Williams, it's human behavior, but put a bow on it, on the whole contribution principle and abundance. Like, really go there. People talk about it, if you live it.
Listen, I was on stage giving away stuff before I even understood that was gonna turn into something special. My husband used to say, you go on these speaking events and they don't pay you. You go on these speaking events, and your time versus like, what are you getting out of it? I was like, for me, it's fulfillment. I need to do this because my soul is craving to go help somebody, because someone has helped me, other people. I think of my mentors, I think of the people who've poured into me, and it's just the one thing I just feel, is my purpose, right? To go and help someone. And Chep, you have always said that you want to grow, go help somebody without expecting anything in return. I didn't realize that, but in 2014, I had journaled that. I was like, I want to just feel like, I want to feel good about what I do. And I would just journal and just say, like, I want to go help people, even if they don't ask me for help, even if they don't, even if I can't be in business with them. And I would go out there and invest my own money. I'd fly out to Inman. I'd fly out to conferences. I'd be like, I'll volunteer. I'll share what we do. I'll share what we did wrong, what we did. I couldn't recruit those people to my brokerage. They were across the country. I didn't care what company they were. I was just fulfilling my heart's desire to share what I went through and to hopefully give someone a little bit of I would say, insight that they can accomplish certain things, because if I could do it, they could do it, right? I remember I had done a speech called, motivational love language, right? And everybody has a story, and what's their story, and do you know your people? Do you really know your people? And I used to always joke around like we were like the bad news bears, man. We weren't, we weren't winning championships, but we were scrappy. And we all had a story. And, mine was, everybody knows I was 16 and pregnant. I was in an abusive relationship. I was told I was never going to amount to something. By the age of 26, I was bankrupt. I was divorced. I was, like a single mother trying to just put food on the table. I remember when I had to borrow money just to buy ramen noodle soups. I tell those stories because I know there's someone out there who might be similar or went through something similar, but I just want to remind them that they can get out of that. Right. So I would do these things and I would come from a place of contribution without expecting anything in return, because I simply felt like it was my duty. And of course, everybody throws out the word contribution now and everybody says it, but like, I feel at peace that I'm walking an authentic walk of saying, I don't ever care if you join me. I don't care if you join me. I don't care if you buy from me. I don't care if you coach with me. I'm gonna give it all away because I'm operating from a place of purpose. I'm coming from now, because I give so willingly, because I don't care about the outcome, the abundance that like just the abundance that flows my way is just like, I'll say to Chep, I can't believe this is happening, bro. I was like, listen, people who once didn't like me, I was my arch nemesis competitors, are now my partners. Like, I just don't get it. He's like, you just stay in flow. You just stay in contribution and abundance. I'm like, this is scary. Do they want something from me? Because all I know how to do is just give my soul and my heart. All I know how to do is give my truth and let them know, like, I'm gonna make some mistakes, but here's one thing, I got your back. Here's one thing. If we need to figure something out, there is no one. Here's what I know. There is no problem that someone could have, not one, that I can't pick up the phone and call someone in my network, in my resource, that wouldn't be able to help us, because I only surround myself by contributors and givers and people who come from abundance. So here's what I tell people, listen, I'm a connector. Come to me if you got a problem, even if you're not in my organization, even if you're not in my brokerage, but I know someone who can help you. And I'm willing to share my resources with you, because the one thing I have is I'm on a pursuit of freedom. And my freedom is knowing that my soul is aligned with what my purpose is. And I'll give it all away to you, because I'm operating from a place of love and abundance. Because I know what it used to be to feel like to operate from a place of fear, that someone was going to take things away. And that is being a prisoner. And I am free. I give it all away. Take it. Take the good, the bad, the ugly. I know what it is to be on a webinar or be on a Zoom, and somebody might be like, blah, 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 blah. But that's okay. I'm not for you. I don't have to be for you. But I'm for the freedom and the purpose that I'm living, which I'll give it all away. You want to look at how we run our follow-up, boss? You want to look at how we do our marketing? You want to look at you want my team agreement? Take it, rip it apart. Tell me that you think it's stupid. I don't care. I'm still going to give it away to you, because I'm not afraid to share my experiences. And take what you like, take what you don't like, rip off and duplicate, like Chep says. But my freedom comes from a place of just giving. Take it all, because that has been my superpower. Now, my team has learned the same principle. They see I give it all, and they've said to me, why are you so generous? I'm like, why not? Why? It doesn't cost me anything extra to give away what I already have learned and experienced. It blesses me in so much abundance, because the right people will show up for you. So, it's not a secret that I'm EXP, and we have an abundance of opportunities, and we're super blessed and the right people will show up in my world. And I'm in the world now of value-based incentive. The more value I bring, perhaps I'm incentivized. And I'm not afraid to say that, but I never do it with the outcome of being incentivized. The incentive is seeing people grow, seeing them reach their level of success. That's why I'm gonna always give it away, Chep. I'm gonna give it away until I can no longer give it away.
Until we fall over.
Until we fall over.
That's
and
it.
That's my freedom. So,
well, Veronica, amazing. Thank you so much. And again, here we sit in contribution. I want to remind people, go back and listen to this over and over and over again. And it's something Veronica and I talk about all the time, is go deep, not wide. Go deep in this. There's so much depth in here. I want you to see the steps. It was awareness, it was personal responsibility, mutual accountability, and then her capacity to do more. And these are all principles Veronica operates in. Trust equals capacity. I want you to hear how she had greater trust in herself, which allowed her to trust in others, and then which created more capacity for her. When something happened, hey, some people didn't, she stuck to principles, and guess what she was doing the next day? Not reactionary. She had already been thinking. She'd already had a recruiting pipeline. She committed to a recruiter, and she didn't even have to think. See, she couldn't get emotionally pulled from that. Does she care for people? Yes. But when you stand in principle, she's got laws that she follows, her law, and she's going to stick to them. She's not going to compromise them while respecting other people. And she stayed going forward. And ultimately at the end, it's contribution. If you're interested in coaching, reach out to Veronica for sure. Veronica, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love you. You are the best coach in the world. And I'm just so grateful for the world you've created for all of us. So thank you.
Thanks.